Hello and welcome to our webinar today, and thank you for joining us because it's going to be a really interesting webinar today. And we're looking at how school leaders can navigate the evolving world of EdTech technology. Today's session is about planning to practice, making smart EdTech decisions. And we'll explore how schools can move beyond the marketing hype and be really strategically sound, evidence-based, informed technology choices. And I'm really happy to be joined by Christine and Olivia today. So welcome to our webinar today.
Hello, and thank you for having us. So obviously we've popped elementary technology at the bottom of our name. I am Christine.
And I'm Olivia.
And we're both ex-teachers. I was a head teacher as well for my sins. So we don't have to explain to anybody why perhaps we've made the choice not to be in the classroom anymore. It was a difficult one.
Yeah,
you'd
definitely,
agree.
I'd agree. Yeah.
But as Jonathan said, it's very much about now. We work with we work for elementary technology, but our role is very much about that bridge between all of that marketing hype. What is it that the technology companies are telling us that these things can do? And actually, what does that look like in practice? Does that matter to us as teachers, as head teachers? Is it going to really make a difference? So we're here just to kind of hopefully let you sit back and just kind of ponder. I'm sure there's nothing we're going to say to you that you're not going to already know, but we know how powerful it is to have that time, especially at this time of year when it's so busy, to really reflect, think, put the brakes on, and kind of think about those decisions.
And that'd be really good. And you got a well planned out session today. And if anyone's got any questions, do put them into the chat. Actually, we're here to answer your questions as well. Welcome to the 5 people that have joined us already. So, I'm going to hand it over to Christine and Olivia and enjoy.
Thank you. So as I said, we have both been in the classroom. We've been there at the chalk face. And I refuse to move away from chalk face. I remember a time where there was chalk. That technology didn't exist in my first teaching practices. So, but then how those decisions really impact what's taking place in classrooms, in our schools. Budgets are tight. Mm-hmm. Staffing is stretched, workload. We were just talking at the start about keeping children safe in education for 25 has been released for the first draft of it. So we're already pondering those things. We're thinking about staffing for September. We're thinking about budgets. We're thinking about national insurance increases. We're thinking about pay increases, all of those things. And then technology is just another thing to come in. So here at Elementary Technology, and I think, I don't want to speak for you, Olivia, but certainly part of my reason for thinking, I could work with elementary technology was that grounding in moving past all that kind of shiny, all of those tools and what's really going to make a difference. And I often talk about it, kind of about that integrity, making those right choices. I suppose you feel the same.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And I think that's something where you can get a little bit lost and find it a bit overwhelming because you go into classroom, maybe it's your new classroom in September and there's a new board in there and it is a little bit, I don't know what this one does. Does it do the same as my last one? And you will be bombarded with all of these technical terms and these words, and sometimes it still means nothing to me unless it's broken down and, it's that's the same as that. It does what I understand it. But there are lots of, like we were just saying earlier, these terms and phrases, like you might have a special way of signing in and it's an NFC reader, or the screen itself might have bonded glass and a special speaker, and it is really overwhelming, and you need someone to break it down and put it into simple terms. And of course you'll know what it means and what it does. You just need to have that, the simplified version of it.
Absolutely. And I think that's been a big learning point for me, coming from all I've ever known is education. I went from 3 years old in nursery through sixth form, university, teacher. So I know teacher language. Put me in a room with teachers and I'm with my people. I understand it. All of those acronyms, they mean something to me. it was a big shock when I left the classroom and started hearing all of these tech terms and acronyms and business terms and acronyms. And I'm known for putting my hand up and going, sorry, what does that mean? So again, we like to kind of think we can take that away from you guys. And you can see behind us the kind of process that we take here at Elementary Technology is about slowing down and putting on the brakes, which might sound a bit kind of counterintuitive for a business. You know, we're a commercial company. People want to make money, so sell. Actually, what we say to schools is stop. So yes, you've got X amount of these already, and they need to be renewed. They're broken. They're not working. One of them's just decided it's not working today. I want one of the same. And we always kind of say to schools, don't we? Just stop. And this is our kind of roadmap, if you like. So we have a process called planning, choosing, buying, and using. And if you work through that process, that ultimately will result in what we all want in schools, that impact. I'm just going to pop my laptop down here, because one of the schools we've been working with really closely, who we've been through this journey from the very start, and actually we're not even at the end, we're very much still working with them. So it's a small school up in Bradford, at the edges of Bradford, Keelan Primary School, and they were fortunate to get some funding, so they were able to really think about what was it that they wanted. So we are here in our experience centre. We've got 2 screens behind us. I can see another one there. I'm looking at you guys there. There's loads of them. It's what we kind of refer to as a mini bet. So bet show held in London every year. You can go and see the latest technology. You can talk to the people who make it and sell it. And you can try all the jazzy, shiny tech tools out, can't you? And as I say, Olivia was kind of got a taste of it. Going to talk to us about some of that in a bit. So then it was about what was it they wanted to achieve with the technology, and having that discussion. And I've also got Fiona Aubrey-Smith's book in my hand, because we've been working with her as well. It's a bit of a fangirl moment whenever I see Fiona, because from EdTech to PedTech, if you don't have a copy of this book, I do suggest getting a copy, because it's the title says it all, changing the way we think about digital technology, because the tool itself isn't going to make a difference. So buying 15 new boards isn't going to make the difference. Buying 3 class sets of Chromebooks, iPads, Surface Pros isn't going to make the difference. Investing hundreds, thousands of pounds in software itself isn't going to make the difference. That is the tool. It's ultimately then about how it's used. So of course, often buying, that's where a lot of people jump in. I had and we're not going to talk brands today. I had a smartboard. I need a smartboard. And I had a Promethean. I need a Promethean. ViewSonic, eArmor, BenQ, C-Touch, the list goes on and on. It's familiar, it's safe, but is it being used and having the impact that you want? I want iPads, I want Chromebooks, I want Windows devices. Is it having the impact that you want it to have? And that's kind of where we come in, because obviously planning, really important, takes time. Choosing a space here where we invite people up to come and just try it. Buying, that's almost the easy part if you've got the money. It's the using sometimes where it does just become a shiny tool that is in the classroom, or if it's something small like a visualizer, finds its way into the cupboard. And then ultimately the impact. And that's where Olivia and I very much come in. It's about that using, about that impact, delivering training, supporting schools, whether it's seeing through all that mumbo jumbo and getting down to nitty gritty what matters, or whether it's about digging down into a specific tool, a bit of software, a feature that something has that people didn't know about. I'm just thinking of an example. Last week I was in a school. The boards that they have bought come with a new piece of free software. They didn't know about it. They hadn't installed it. So I went along and I showed it them, and I got those oohs and ahs. I was like, yeah. But it's about that they could have very easily, they'd chosen what they want, they bought what they want, but they could have really missed out on some, and they were really kind of really simple tools. But the teachers were just saying, oh, that's easier than going to Google and using the one that's in the web browser. It's easier than, so yeah, it's about that. So we're very much about looking at that impact and working with schools. And I think that's a really important part, that most schools, I would say, put the thought into the planning and the choosing. We also work closely with IT departments and strategic IT leads to get them to understand the importance of pedagogy, that it's not just always about the cheapest is the best.
Yes, yeah.
Buying, so that's the easy bit-ish. It's the bit after. And I think that's where it's being very mindful. What is it that you want to achieve in your school? What is it that you are doing currently that is working? What is it you're doing that maybe isn't working? Have you got class sets of devices sat around, not really being utilised as you best think they could be to have that real impact on the students? AI, it's a minefield. So yeah, that's kind of our roadmap, if you like. It is proven. We have got the evidence. So just thinking about Keelam, their use of digital, the choices they made, had significant impact on the paper usage. So school business managers, yeah, we've got you. Because we started small. We didn't kind of just like chuck out all the traditional paper is needed.
It's got a place.
Exactly, yeah. And the right tool for the right person at the right time. I'm quoting my friend Gemma there. To have the right impact. So they looked at just changing 2 of 4 worksheets of a day into a digital worksheet. And they saw a cost which would have equated to £660 per class per year for them. It's then another example. I was with the teacher last week. She said last year they went through 3 maths exercises books. But because of the way they're using their technology and their software in the classroom, instead of filling 3 maths exercise books, this year they'd only filled 2. They've still covered all exactly the same work. But if that's happening in maths, it can happen in English, it can happen in geography, science, whatever books you've got. There's ways and means. So it's, when we talk about making those smart EdTech decisions, it very much is that planning to practice. And that's what we're here to kind of help you with. So I've rambled on for some time. So Olivia's kind of got some bits and pieces. As I say, we were talking about those. I'm going to pop those behind me. Those phrases, those kind of usage.
Yes, yeah. So, well, these 2 screens here obviously look very similar. This one is probably, from what you can see, bigger, but ultimately just looking at the 2 of them, you wouldn't really be able to tell a difference between them.
They've got some buttons, they've both got speakers at the front, they've both got 2 pens, connection panel, they've both got a black frame. I'm just gonna
sound the same.
They're probably similar to something you've got in your classrooms.
But we know from just obviously all the boards that we've got in this experience centre that there can be features built into maybe both of them that aren't obvious just from the outset. So like I was saying earlier, there might be different ways of signing in. So some of the boards in our experience centre have a card, an NFC card, that you just tap on the side here, sign in, and then you have access to all of your files, OneDrive, Google, whatever it is that you use as a school. Some of them might have built-in computers that are just slotted around the back, which means you won't need to necessarily have your laptop, but the phrase for that might be an OPS. And if you're maybe not very technical, that might not mean anything to you. And it didn't for me.
I still can't remember what OPS means.
No,
I do know what NFC is, near field communication.
Oh, very good.
It's like you use
glad you didn't ask me that.
touch.
Yeah. And then other things, when we do our demo videos and we kind of have to talk about the product features, I'm often asking our film Wilma to say, can you repeat that phrase again? Because I'm not going to remember it, because I know what it can do, but it's the actual language that can really throw people off and maybe put you off as well. And that's why when it comes to this choosing part,
Sorry, that's me
tapping. When it comes to the choosing part, when you are kind of being thrown all of this language, it's got a 20-watt subwoofer. It maybe doesn't mean anything, and it kind of might put you off, and you think actually that's very complicated and there's too much there. But when it is broken down and you have the chance to maybe come to a space where there are lots of options of different brands and try them out and see how they feel, that then makes sense, and you're putting it in context, and you can then try and maybe think of how you could use it in your school for your teachers and how it could integrate with what you've already got, rather than it just being a bit overwhelming and a bit too much. So that's where the choosing part, when it comes to kind of getting hands-on, is really valuable. And that's something we often get schools coming here, don't we? Yeah. Or sometimes go to them and they can kind of try out different screens at the same time. And you can have the feel of what these technical words mean in practice.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking on paper, again, just thinking back to budgets. Mm-hmm. I've just seen your question there, Sophie. We'll come to that in a moment. Thank you. As you said, Olivia, on paper, these might look very similar. Mm-hmm. Well, on paper, the specs might look similar. Visually, they look similar. One of them might be cheaper.
Yeah.
Which is often the case, and budgets are tight. But sometimes opting for the cheapest option, and this isn't me saying, oh, buy the most expensive. Absolutely not. Buy the one that's right for you. But sometimes without digging into those features and having a feel, mm-hmm. sometimes the cheaper option means you're missing out on something that is integral to teaching, is a part of, you lose out on a feature that actually that was something we were using or we wanted to use. So yeah, I'll let you carry on, Olivia, and then Sophie, we will come to your question.
On that point, obviously the first thing that you would probably be doing as a teacher is writing on the board and interacting with the board. So we've obviously got the same screen on both of these boards here, both have PowerPoint. And the first thing you naturally will do is pick up the pen and start writing on the board and annotating. And you can see here, I've just picked up the pen and I'm inking straight away with the pen. My palm can be my eraser, so I'm not having to struggle and find another button. And then my finger helps me navigate between the slides. So all within one kind of movement, staying where I am, I'm able to do those three things and teach navigating through my resources really quickly and easily. And again, I can obviously change the ink colours depending on whatever we're doing. So it's a nice interactive board. It's intuitive. I can do what I would be doing maybe with my whiteboard, for example. I was about to say,
yeah, your dry white whiteboard, which we all know everybody has next to their interactive board. I was one of those people as well. But it just behaves just like that.
Yeah.
And actually you can just add in a plain blank page, mm-hmm. and that's then like a little whiteboard for you. So that's boo. Can you do that on this one?
So when we move across to this one, I pick up the pen and want to start writing and nothing's coming up. Because on this particular board, my pen, when I'm in PowerPoint, it doesn't ink for me. And I can navigate through using my finger, but I can't actually interact with what's on the screen just by picking up the pen. I can, if I press the home button, bring up an annotating tool, give it a second, which pops up at the bottom, and I can now ink and navigate through, label whatever I want to do. But if I now want to move across, I can't, because it's still on the pen. So I need to choose a button, which then removes all my inking. And then if I go across, there we go, I can. But if I go back again and click off it, all my inking is gone.
Well, it
comes back again.
It comes back after a while. But if you were on the next slide, which you have to uncontrol and go back, but if you go on that slide, that inking will still be there. That pops up.
Yes. Yeah. Whereas this one, I can move across and forward and the inking stays where I wanted it to. I don't have to press any of the buttons. But you'll notice that's a really simple tool and really simple feature that you maybe don't think about when you are choosing these boards, and maybe you just assume they all do the same thing.
Yeah, and I would say I've got first-hand experience of that, where I was in a school where we had two different types of boards, which is fine. And the teacher was using PowerPoint because she had her resources in PowerPoint. A lot of resources are in PowerPoint. And of course, you've got the Microsoft inking tools. They're fabulous. This isn't about saying PowerPoint's a bad thing, but you have to turn that pen on. You have to turn it off. And she was doing that. I was like, why are you doing that? You've got this board. I said, you just pick your pen up and ink. Or do I? And our IT technician had told her, oh, if you want to ink in PowerPoint, you need to do this, which you did on one type of board. On this other type of board, which she had, you didn't have to. So it's little things like that. And where decisions are made and maybe taken out of the hands of head teachers sometimes, it's not understanding that, and I'm saying this from personal experience, I want simplicity in the classroom.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
I do not want that fear factor of a lesson observation going terribly wrong or feeling it's gone terribly wrong because somebody's in the classroom and my tech has failed.
Yeah. Or it doesn't do what you think it's going to do and you're panicking.
And feeling that kind of anxiety rise. New head teacher, good luck to you, Sophie. I was there. And improving EdTech across 2 schools. So that's really challenging because you've got there 2 perhaps different approaches, maybe not, to teaching and learning. 2 different, we all have our pedagogical beliefs. So they can differ from classroom to classroom. They can differ from leadership team to leadership team. So I would say it's about getting into the classrooms. It's about seeing what are people doing naturally. You're going to have what we call our EdTech heroes, those people who pick it up and they just go. They don't need any help. They don't need any training. They just intuitively do it. And where we've been around schools, we know those classrooms, don't we? I'm thinking of an example. Was it the year 5 class we went into?
Yes.
And the Chromebooks were out.
Everything was, all the tech, you could imagine, the software, they were really engaging with it, with everything that the school had on offer. But then you'd step into the next classroom and there wasn't that kind of, and that was fine. Yeah, because they were both teaching. Quality was, they were still getting across the content. It was just 2 different teaching styles. And we've been in situations, haven't we, where there has been a lot of new tech introduced and it has really been quite a barrier for some teachers and their confidence has really dropped and they've almost avoided then using the technology because it was too much of a step from what they had and it was a little bit overwhelming for them. So yeah, it's getting in and seeing it, isn't it?
I was going to say, get in, see what's happening, see what people feel. Take a look at what you've got. Part of one of the things we do here at Elementary Technology is something called a classroom health check, and it's where one of our EdTech consultants come out to the school. They'll have a look in all the classrooms, see what technology you've got in there, whether it's boards, whether it's visualizers. I'm pointing over there because there's visualizers over there somewhere. Pupil devices. What software is it you use? What is teacher confidence like? And they log all that, take a few photographs of things, obviously no children in those, and then they can report that back to you. And we colour code it, good old RAG rating, although for some reason yellow's snuck in there as well. Oh. We've got red, amber, yellow and green.
And
I'm like, RAG rating, red, amber, green. And some of it is just based on age, interactivity. Some of it is, well, it's working, it's fine, it's out of warranty, but it's still working. That would be amber. And that gives schools a really good picture of where they're at with their technology. And in terms of this planning, an idea of actually what are we going to need to invest in. And then I think it's about you as a head teacher with your leadership team thinking about what is it that we want to do with technology. Is it we just want to make the most of pupil devices beyond simple apps? And again, I'm not going to use names, but there are some amazing, wonderful multiplication apps out there that are fabulous in terms of getting children ready for the multiplication check in year 4. That speed, that precision. Yeah. They're really important. They're great. But actually, if we're thinking about accessibility, if we're thinking about inclusion, visual impairment, that ability to get the content that's there to hear, and we'll have a look at something that links with that in a moment, is that our priority? Do we need to develop oracy, speaking and listening? Do we need to promote engagement? And we've got a certain group of children. I taught at a school in Bradford in the last 4 years of my career. I'm not even going to say EAL, and I can use that acronym here because you know what I mean. It was new to English. There was no English. They were arriving in the country, brand new, from all across the globe. So actually, we were looking at ways we could use technology to support that inclusion through translation tools, through dictate, because perhaps they had grasped English language to the point that they could talk about it, but they weren't quite there with writing. And that's one thing we do a lot of, isn't it? Those really simple tools. And then it's about planning. I would also suggest the EdTech community on LinkedIn. I say X, there's still a little bit on X. Instagram, the community is huge. So actually find out, is there something you want? So Fiona, for example, works with a lot of schools, a lot of trusts in terms of their digital strategy. There's a Discovery Learning Trust. They are wonderful Microsoft schools. So if you are Microsoft users, reach out to them, go and have a look at their Discovery Days. Connect Education Trust, their Google. There's the Leo Academy Trust. If you haven't heard of Leo Academy Trust, they have been doing some wonderful things with digital. And again, Fiona's been working with them. The research that they have done, the tools that they have integrated into their day-to-day practice, the support for staff, because I would say, and this sounds like self-promotion, using is going to equal impact. So that's where kind of people like us can kind of come along, work with leaders and say, let's take away all of this shiny nonsense and let's focus on the tools that really matter to you, whether it's in small groups, whole staff, one-to-one. I think it's think about what it is you want to do. What have you got already that can support with that? And then think about so how are we going to get there? It doesn't always mean new tech. It could just be about utilizing what you've already got in a different way with a plan to, okay, we're going to try and fund new things further down the line. I was in a school where we, as a trust, paid for a license for a really wonderful bit of web-based software. I only learned about it when I applied for this job. If anybody's watching, hello. Because it just come as part of a license. The trust had bought the license because best cost, buy it at top level. You've all got access to it, but we hadn't been told, or certainly that message hadn't trickled to me. It's just wonderful. I'm going to stop talking whilst Olivia moves on. Yeah. James, I've seen your question and I will come to that very shortly as well.
Yeah, so thinking about making the most of what we do have, as Christine was saying, and thinking about our software maybe, moving on to kind of the using part now, I'm just going to show you kind of a little demo of some of the kind of the training that we deliver, but also linking into how you can make the most of pupil devices and maybe software that you don't have, and showing how you can kind of make those lessons, like we were saying, a little bit more interactive and a little bit more engaging. So I'm just going to get my window up. Did I put it on here?
On the
browser.
There we go. It's just gone to sleep.
There we go. So this is an example of some software where if you do have pupil devices, and if those of you who are joining do have a device, you can connect to this. And it's kind of like how we were saying, iPads, Chromebooks, whatever it is that you have in the classroom, you could have something shown on your board, and then your pupils in the classroom, if you have the devices available for that lesson, can connect to it and have it in front of them. So we're not having to use lots of paper. Maybe some of those paper-based resources could be switched to a digital resource. So for this example, we just need to type in a website and our class ID. No apps needed, simple. And I can see Christine's just put it into the chat. So if you do want to join, you can just follow that link. And if I just move through, so this is our lesson example on space. And when you do connect, you'll see Christine's got it on her device. It's exactly what's shown on the board here. And
we're back so it doesn't lose focus. Technology is great when it works.
Perfect. And then as I move through, the devices, the screen will will follow with me. So it's like our virtual lesson. So for this one, it's just an example of a template that we took from the software, and it's a really nice one if we're thinking of, for example, the start of the new year, transitions, just those morning check-ins, and it's a way for pupils to kind of share with you how they're feeling, maybe just emotionally how they're feeling, or how they're feeling on a topic. So if those of you who are joined, we can just click and drag and move an icon to one of our emojis. I can click on it and see who has actually put that point. So I can see Christine is feeling great, so I know she's happy today. But if you did have, for some reason, a few pupils, I'm tired most Monday mornings, that's maybe a nice way that you can check in with them and see is there a trend there? So that's one example of a whole class whiteboard activity. And then this is kind of a theme with that. If I press start with this one. So this is an example of maybe instead of having lots of hands shooting up, and we've actually seen this being used in a lesson live, haven't we? Yeah. The classroom, all the pupils had the devices, so calm, so focused, looked at the board. There was 60 points that maybe you might have pupils who are a little bit shyer and don't want to share their idea with everyone verbally aloud. They can put their idea on the board instead. So I can see here that Christine said welcome. And maybe if for whatever reason I don't want to have all the names shown, I can hide the names so that I don't have to have all their names on the board. Maybe we've got pupils who are a little bit shyer, so I can hide the display name and then it just shows me as a logo instead. And I can see who's put their ideas. So I can see Robin's put in a point as well, but on the board here it doesn't show that name because I've decided to hide it. But you can see how this would be really nice if maybe we do have a few shy pupils, or if we've got maybe 2 classrooms doing the same lesson and we're spread across 2 rooms, we can have all that interaction and engagement between us, because you don't have to be in the lesson with me to be able to contribute to this point.
Yeah, we've had students join a lesson that we've been running live in, again, Bradford. Just so you know, we are in Leeds. When we talk about Bradford, it's because it's just over, it's literally over there. So we do work a lot, obviously, locally. But we had a lesson in Botswana, ran live in from Bradford to Botswana, and the pupils joined live, and it was this bit of software. What I will say on this, obviously you can see from the link name I popped in there, it's called Lumio. It is by Smart. You can actually sign up for a free account and get kind of up to about 10 lessons worth of storage. So it is really wonderful. What I would say there, just thinking of that, James, where you said you are head of a special school. So again, what new technologies? It's about what works for you. What is it that your pupils, your students need? Is it front of class interactive technology? Is it pupil devices? So actually, because one thing I will say, Olivia, could you just go back to that text page for me?
Yes, okay? I think I've skipped ahead too many.
Yeah, no, don't worry.
Hold on.
Yeah, I'm on it now. So
are you on it?
This, for example, it's about to come up now.
It's really, it's too interactive with me today.
So you can see, hopefully on here, I am just going to move in slightly and it's going to send out a focus, which is good. So this is a smaller version of what Olivia's got on the screen behind me there. I'm pointing in the wrong direction. Say you've got students with visual difficulties, something like this, which casts your lesson content live. I can then zoom in on that, and I've got that then to read here. Now you can see nothing's changing behind me. So Olivia's teaching content is still there. Every student that's connected would be seeing this and can do this. There is also, if you are aware of Microsoft Immersive Reader, because it's a piece of text, I can click on that, and then it's just loading up at the bottom. It's just going to open up. Come on, next page. There we go. So it takes me into Immersive Reader. Now I'm just going to press play. I'm going to make sure my volume's turned up so it picks up through here.
Explore space and our solar system. What is space?
So she had an American accent. It should have been British. But that is a free tool. And Immersive Reader is available in Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Edge. As you can see, it's built into lots of bits of software like this. At the front of class, you can also show it. So it's an option there. So actually you've got the ability. So something as simple as that. Have a look at what is it you've already got. If you're using Google tools, for example, I did a webinar a couple of weeks ago, and it was about using, it was just Google Docs, and it was about using things like dictate. So actually the ability to talk, and it records what you're writing, and you can set it up so it recognizes punctuation, etc. All of those abilities. Again, where we're talking about physical resources, rather, sometimes the physical dexterity skills might not be there. You might need digital manipulatives. Similarly, if you've got a student that needs perhaps resources to support with their learning, but they don't want to lose the kind of kudos of their peers because they need something that other people don't, software like this, and I'm not sure if we've got anything in this one, we might have to edit it.
Yeah, or I can go to, I might have
to
come
things
out
like digital manipulatives. So I would say, James, look at what you've got. What licenses have you got? What software have you got? Of course, there's wonderful things like Clicker. There's wonderful things like Widget, where you can bring things down. Oh, this is the example of the game. So again, this can be done at front of class, and this is just a simple match them up game. So I always think from an early years perspective, oh wow, right, I need one piece of paper with one thing, in this case the planets, one piece of paper with the words, and then maybe another piece of paper just for fun to stick it on, or maybe go straight into their exercise book. Regardless, for 30 children, that's either 60 pieces of paper plus the exercise book, or 90 pieces of paper if you've got the template to do it on. You've also got the scissor skills. You've also got the glue sticks. And then you've got the bits of paper going missing. Miss, I've got 4 Earths, but I haven't got any Mars. And what you've just seen, hopefully, behind me was Olivia just dragging and dropping them in.
And it
does it for you. What I'm just going to do, I'm going to do it very, very quickly here, because then the other great thing for this is the live data. Now, you can tell I did a webinar on this yesterday because I'm getting my planets right.
Yeah, so I've modelled it at the front of the class, and now Christine can do it independently on her device, and then I can go to the View Progress tab at the top and see how we've got on with that activity. So as a whole class, I can see one of us has completed it, one of us haven't. I can then go on to Student Progress, gives you a little warning beforehand to say that obviously everyone's results will be shown. But we're okay with that, aren't we, Christine?
Yeah, it's fine. I got them all right today.
And it will tell me how long it's taken her to complete, how many she got right or wrong, and then it will actually give you a breakdown of maybe if she did get any wrong, which ones they were, so we can return to those misconceptions, recap it. This is obviously planets and space, but it could be any topic, spellings, maths, timetables, whatever it is, and you can have that instant feedback live in the lesson, which is so valuable.
Absolutely. And again, it's all here on the device, so you can then interact with it in live lesson. There's also the ability to change to a student pace mode, which means then the students can move through that digital lesson content at their own pace. So say you've got a whole set of resources and you want your students to be able to access them, but you don't want to print them all off, or you want to use tools like Immersive Reader so the lesson content can be read to them. Say you've got a 10-year-old child, but they have a reading age of 5-year-old. But they might cognitively, they might be able to understand that vocabulary, and they might be able to talk fluently about that. They just don't have the reading ability to read those words. They haven't got those skills. So having something like Immersive Reader or Read Aloud in Google Chrome, or, there's all different tools, means that can be read to them on their device. They can hear, they can comprehend, they can answer, they can respond. There's things like, I was about to call it Text Help, but it's not called Text Help anymore. It's called Everway now. And they have wonderful tools that can be used over the top of other programs and applications. There's loads out there, James, and I think, like I said to Sophie, It's finding out what is it that you want to achieve as a leader. What do your teachers have the confidence to do?
Yep.
Where do you see technology being used to support your students in the future? And then again, thinking about that planning, how are we going to get there? I always feel bad saying this because it's almost like I'm self-promoting. And the training is so important because we've been there, haven't we?
Yeah. And even on the simple level of sometimes we do training, obviously we start at the basics, and sometimes I kind of think, oh, they'll know this. So I whiz through it. And then at the end of one of my sessions, we were talking about it the other day, didn't we? And a teacher came up to me and asked what the two sound buttons do at the bottom. And I said, oh, it is literally volume up and volume down. And he'd never really pressed them before. But then it kind of led to another layer. And he was a music teacher. And I showed him then how you could change the settings so that it was the right sound for his pupils to be able to hear in the whole classroom. And so something as simple as that then led to something that was very relevant for him. So it's worth having the chance for, because obviously teachers are so busy, they're not going to be able to have much time to just stand at the front and explore everything on their board. Yeah. But having a slot, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, where it's directed to just go through one element of the board, and then they can practice that and put it into all their lessons or some of their lessons, it takes that barrier away, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I think it's very much, look at what you've got. I'm going to keep saying that. Look at what you've got, because money is tight. Most schools have a Microsoft tenancy or a Google tenancy, so you're already paying for those licenses. There are so many tools within those. Things like visualizers. How many do we find in cupboards?
More in cupboards than on desks.
Now, obviously, the latest one will have a better megapixel camera and a better zoom and a better microphone. But if the money isn't there straight away, it's about what have you got now that can be implemented into practice. I would say, and I'm saying this to you, and of course you know it, why? So I'm doing a webinar on AI, Sharon, tomorrow. I would say find out what is your why as a leader, because you are the one. I've been there. You're responsible. You're the one who's got to answer the questions, explain why, answer to governance, answer to trusts, answer to Ofsted, parents, teachers. So what's your why? Find out what your staff's why is. What is it they want to be able to do? And how can they be supported to embrace your kind of vision, so that actually we say it might look different. It's not the same for everybody. And what might be one teacher's why will be very different to another. And what one teacher can achieve could be very different to another. So I'm thinking about Maria, and I know she won't mind me talking about her. She's been a teacher for 36 years. When we started working with her, I got told, if you can crack Maria, you've sorted. Oh, I love working with Maria because she wants to learn. Now, she'll admit herself, the way she's using the tools, it's perhaps in a much more simplistic way than some of her peers. In Key Stage 2, we're using green screen. We're using editing in Canva. We're making multimodal presentations that have got written work, images, videos, text. It's got the lot. But she has embraced it because she understood the why. She got on board, and now every time I go into her class, it's just a pleasure, because she's like, right, I've done this, I want to do this. A child, she was trying to use video to record learning. Child shut off, did not want to be on camera. I know how they feel. So I said, right, let's just use audio. Let's just layer their audio over an image of what they're talking about. Oh, that child, they spoke so eloquently and with like amazing intonation, and it was just a pleasure to kind of witness. Just think about your question there, Sharon. Generative AI on the rise. How should school leaders adapt to ensure these tools are secure, impactful, and educationally meaningful? I would say use this same process. I'm going to go here. So think about, what is it you want to do? this is a great for life.
Here it is.
What tools are you choosing? Definitely before you buy. There are so many tools out there. My first thing would be, have they got the safeguards? Again, I was in a group chat yesterday about keeping children safe in education. I think we were all, the new version for September, I know Jonathan and Lucy are on with updating their resources to reflect that. I think we were all expecting AI to come into it a little bit more than it has. It's not going away. It's not taking teachers' jobs. It's not. But I would say that the teachers that get on board and start to use it are going to be perhaps in a stronger position than those that don't, and where we bury our heads. So if you are Microsoft, if you have a Copilot license, that is secure. It comes with the Copilot security. You can put information in there and it does not go out and it does not feed the models. Okay, the LLMs, the large language models. Google, if you have got Google, they've just announced that, and for a lot of these tools, it's still 13 plus. There are some where it's AI for all. But if you've got Google, they've just announced that Google Gemini is going to be available for everybody using an education license, regardless of which tier you're using. Again, if you're using it in your school domain, it's got the shield, you're secure. You can put information into that's not going out and feeding those models. Don't go popping things in ChatGTP. I'm talking about personal information data, because without wanting to scaremonger, but everything we put into those models feeds it and it learns and it grows off that. So it's knowing where do you put what information. Then there's tools like Canva. If you are Canva for Education users, or Canva Education it's called now, they have AI for all. So any student, if you've got that set up for your school, they can access the AI tools in there. If they're turned on, you can turn them off. So image generation, videos, not there yet for Edu, but it's coming. Magic Write, code for me, Magic Canva Code. So I think it's, what are you paying for already? I'm always going to come back to that. Because if it's in your Microsoft tenancy, if it's in your Google tenancy, you don't necessarily then need to go and pay for these other ones that are out there. And there are lots of other ones out there that have their securities in place. I can't comment on where that information goes. I'm not kind of well versed enough in every single one of them. I do know, because we tend to work, we do work with schools, that Google within your school licenses, Microsoft within your school licenses, Canva within your school licenses has that shield and everything's held neatly. It's training. So as I said, Sharon, I bit of self-promotion on Head Teacher Chat. I am running a webinar tomorrow at 3:45 to 4:15. We actually have an AI event being held in this space tomorrow. So I'm following up the last one of this academic year with a webinar on some practical strategies for schools. We're going to be looking at Google because I have an education account, so I get into that. I can show Copilot, but I don't have an education account, so mine is a bit different. Canva, looking at, for example, this piece of software, Lumio, that we're using, that has some AI assist tools in it and how they can be used. And I'm also going to be talking about the DFE support materials. If you haven't seen them, I would have a look. It's 4 modules, some presentations, some videos to watch. I also then went and followed up with the Chartered College for Teaching. They have a kind of little quiz and you can get a certificate for that. Impactful, again, it comes down to what's your why. What is it that you really, really want to achieve with it? Is it something as simple as time? I hate saying time saving, efficiency.
That's a good word.
So like we use it a lot in our work. I've got an idea of what I want to do.
Yeah, it's just getting that first step of you've got a blank page and I just need an initial step in, a foot in, a word, a phrase, just to get you where your kind of ideas flowing. It doesn't have to be, it creates everything for you, but it helps speed up the whole creation side, doesn't it, sometimes?
Absolutely, yeah. So actually I'm a year 5 teacher teaching about space. I wanted to lesson plan with some practical activities and 3 levels of differentiation. That's how it's most simplistic. It gives that to you, and then it's about feeding it. And I would say, planning time for staff to play with these tools.
Yeah, definitely.
And do some really silly things like, I was doing it with a group we made up a song, a very silly song, and we used AI to create the very silly song. But it was great. Write me an end of year poem to share with my class. Give me 5 examples of things like, take this text. So again, thinking about pupils perhaps with additional learning needs, SEN, can't access the reading level of a piece of text. Okay, simplify this text for me and then give it its prompts. And ultimately, where we talk about being educationally meaningful, what does it mean to you? So pedagogically, why? In the same way as what interactive boards are you using? What computers are you using? What visualizers are you using? Where does technology live in your pedagogical ecosystem? Where does AI fit in that? And I would say, don't be afraid of it. Plan which one and choose which one you're going to use before you buy. There are loads of ones out there that different kind of education influencers work with and will share. And they're great. They're great tools. It's just being very mindful with regards to GDPR, safeguarding, consent. Where is the information that goes in there going? And where is that information being stored? And then again, finding how are we going to use this? I think it's that. I would take a look at the DFE resources. They're a good starting point. Again, I would connect with the edu community. There are loads of thought leaders out there using it in their classrooms, in their trusts. As I say, we've got a wonderful event here tomorrow, which is then feeding into my webinar tomorrow afternoon. And I say mine because Olivia is off to train a school. And actually, it is a special school, and looking at how they can make the most of the interactive technology, sharing to devices.
And I've already delivered similar training to that at another special school, and they loved how interactive it could be for them, and they were spread across the whole school, and I was in one room and then could move around to help them. So it's definitely having the chance to kind of think it through properly, not making a gut decision and jumping into something that maybe isn't going to work for you, and then having the chance to try it out and experiment first.
I think that's something that we're not used to in education is taking time, because everything has to happen yesterday because otherwise you're behind the curve, or that money needs to be spent by this date, or it's gone, or we need to have this signed off because this is coming up. And kind of the plan can change. You can have your big vision, but it's understanding how it can change. But I think, it's taking your time with any element of EdTech, whether it is working across 2 schools, whether it's SEND and special needs, whether it's AI, whether it's pupil devices, interactive technologies, PCs, visualizers. It's kind of stop. Who's out there to help? Obviously we are. We kind of say to people, you don't need that. And we might get a bit of a glare from the powers that be, but again, it's about making those right decisions, because ultimately then you are going to have you are going to have this impact in whichever way you see fit, and in a way that works for you.
And I don't think you have to fall into the trap of, we need to have everything now. We've been to schools where we've just introduced the real basic level to start with, and then we come back in 3 months' time and maybe go into the next part. And it doesn't have to be, we have to go into everything now and you have to understand it all now. You could just start at a really simple level, maybe with introducing some pupil devices into a few more of your lessons somehow, and interacting maybe with software, or literally picking up a pen and inking on the screen in a few of your lessons. So it doesn't have to be all at once, and you don't want to overwhelm.
No.
It's just starting where's right for you and your teachers and pupils, and then building it up over time.
And when you see those people really shouting about, we've done this, we've achieved this, it's wonderful. But when you dig down, sometimes it is the simplest tools. Using Dictate, which is in any word processor, Google, Microsoft, whatever. It is using the translate tools. It's in any device. It's using the built-in accessibility tools on iPads, on Chromebooks. It's using those tools that already exist in that technology. There is assistive technology in these boards. But often, because what we do is just plug our laptop in and go, we don't necessarily know that it's there. I think hopefully that is... I really appreciate the questions, because they've been, they help to kind of lead the conversation. That whilst we've looked at some practice, it's about understanding that it is what's best for you. What is it that you and your staff and your learners want to achieve? And actually, in order to make those smart EdTech decisions, don't just get kind of sucked in by the shiny and the bright and the new. Think about, is it going to make a difference? Is it going to help us achieve our goals across? So don't just think about EdTech as in its own silo. Actually, EdTech is across everything. So what is our school development plan, or academy development plan, improvement plan, whatever you call it? What are our priorities? And how can the tech assist with that, rather than it maybe becoming something on its own? So I hope that's been helpful. I didn't quite think that we'd reach an hour, but we're almost there. Jonathan's probably going to go, you knew you were going to talk for an hour, Christine.
I'm not going to say anything like that. But what a lot of information there, and actually really useful information for school leaders to use. I mean, I love what you're talking about, AI. It is an interesting field, and you have to be up to date with it, and you have to understand it, because it's changing everything we're doing at the moment. So, and that's why the government brought out those AI resources, which are fantastic, really useful. And actually, I have a feeling that most schools will be using them in September for their inset days. I have a feeling. So
me.
The intention of that. As you know, we are great fans of what you do at Elementary. I've seen the process for many years and how you're doing it. And actually, it's not about a marketing fad or anything like that. It's about actually helping schools develop. And we've seen what you've done in your pilot school with Robert, and we could see how that journey of that school and everything that works on that one. Do you want to give a little bit about that school and the journey they went on? Because actually that might be quite useful for our school leaders to understand that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you said that, because I'd probably said Christine didn't talk about that enough. So Keelan, they were very fortunate. They did get some funding from the government, because they were running some pilot projects across a number of schools across the UK. The main focus was kind of around resilience. So our role in that came around the use of technology to support resilience. They are a four class school, 15 per year group, so mixed age groups. They had very aging technology. It was a case of you write here and the pen's down here, or vice versa. So they often didn't use the technology. They didn't, because of the size of the school, even with larger schools, they didn't necessarily have funding. So this kind of offer came at a really pertinent time for them. And it meant that they could replace their front of class technology. They could invest in pupil devices. some software. They were looking at all the options. Again, they came here, they spoke about what they wanted to do. The planning session is great. You get lunch. If ever you want a planning session, they put on a good lunch here. And we just sat and chatted and kind of went through all the different things. Like Olivia said, the first thing anybody does when they come into this room is they pick up the pen and they want to write on the screens, because we know as teachers that really matters. And sometimes just the noise some of the boards makes, people are like, no, and they're gone. So they went through that process. They brought a school leader with, one of their kind of more experienced class teachers to kind of be involved in that decision. So it wasn't just the head saying it was this. It wasn't just the school business manager going, we're going to spend this much money. It wasn't the teacher going, oh, well, I need that tool. It was very much a rounded decision involving as many stakeholders as possible. Because they're a small school, they didn't have to kind of involve like an IT lead from a trust or local authority. They then chose what they wanted based on what their priorities were. They bought it. As I say, that was the easy bit. And then we worked together, and we're in year 2. We're going to be going into year 3 in September around what they wanted to do. So as Olivia said at the start, it was very much about those simplistic tools. Now you've got a board that when you want to write here, it is going to write here and not here. Things like screencasting from the iPad, you don't have to pay for that. You don't need an extra tool for that. And this is how powerful it can be. So students from the back of the classroom can share their work straight to the board. And then we worked with Fiona. I don't work on commission for her book, by the way. But we worked with her in terms of digging down into that impact, because we wanted to know, is what we're doing really having kind of sound impact? Not just, oh yeah, kids love coming to school. It was about the children's thinking. And Fiona was with us just the other day, and having those conversations about how has it changed? How does it make things easier? Tell me about what happens here. Getting the staff to reflect on their practice and moving beyond that kind of simplistic app usage, which is fabulous. We linked it to the SAMR model, SAMR, and in terms of change. So actually, substitution, S, is really important. But how can we move past that to really get to that modification and that redesign of tasks so it really makes a difference and prepares children for the future, those skills that they need? It's still ongoing. We're always having conversations about AI, about new tools that are coming. Right, okay, now I know how to take a video. We did the green screen workshop, didn't we? The children are now teaching each other how to do it. So and learning with the staff. So actually, there's that digital agency really being embedded in that school. So where you talk about improving EdTech across schools, because we're upskilling the teachers and the students at the same time, the students, as we know, are flying with the tech. So they're then going, oh, I can do this. Oh, now I can do this. And they're talking about their use of technology outside of school. So one child was trying to mix his own track to create a horrible history style rap about the Shang dynasty when I was last in. Another girl talking about AI. I said, oh, I always say please to it. She goes, oh, you have to. Because if AI ever takes over the world, you want it to remember that you were polite. So yeah, it's not a kind of, you've bought your kit off us, now off you go. I think they're a little bit fed up of me. I kind of wish they sometimes wish I would go. But it is about that, taking some of the pressure away from Rob and his leadership team, getting rid of those shiny tools, and me going, right, I'll do that bit. We'll do that bit. We had a great day, didn't we? Running workshops with the staff and the children, and then a staff meeting. And it's about that kind of drip feeding, and the ripple effects that we see from that have just been so powerful. So yeah, and if ever you want to speak to Rob, he's like totally open to chatting to people, opening up his doors. It's just a small example, but we're planning to take over the world, aren't we? We want more of these kind of impact schools, so we can kind of work with leaders, make tech really make a difference, and then ultimately impact on children's lives.
Oh, it sounds amazing. And we spoke to Rob, and the impact is huge in that school. So well done to everyone involved. And yeah, I'm just going to say thank you for everyone joining us today in our webinar, From Planning to Practice, Making Smart EdTech Decisions. Okay, we hope you really enjoyed the session, and there was a lot of information in there. So thank you, Olivia and Christine, for your time today, and thank you everyone at Elementary to supporting us through this. If anyone wants to get more information, where do they go to find out more information about you?
So our website is elementaryuk.com, so you can find us on there. I'm going to just very quickly, if my keyboard works,
Drop your email in.
Yeah, drop our emails in there. So it's c.mayers. Oh, and of course, I'm on an American keyboard, so the @ symbol is in the wrong place. See, don't you just love tech, guys? So it's that one. And then Olivia's, does that come through?
Yeah.
Is exactly the same, but she's o.sullivan at.
Perfect.
There we go. But yeah, it's our website is elementaryuk.com, and you can get loads of information on there. There's a contact form. You can contact us directly. And if you want to see what we're doing with the AI tomorrow evening, feel free to join us.
I'm sure it'd be really good. I think I might be joining in. I need to know a little bit more about
Look forward to see you there.
That'd be good. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Brilliant.
Thank you. Bye.